and welcome back to Model Kit Stuff and the continuation of our build of the Junkers JU52 in its 1936 Berlin Olympics livery. So where we've got up to since the last video is that the whole model has now been painted in the silver as far as it's been built up. So we've still got a door on each side to do. And we've got the undercarriage and engines to do. So it's been painted silver, it's then been given a coat of gloss varnish, and we're now just putting the decals on. So just as a quick reminder, the decals that we're using are from this company here, Peddinghaus Decals. I have used their decals before, they're very good, but I've only ever used them on ships actually. This is the first time I've come to use them on an aircraft. And one of the features of this company's products is that all of these decals are on a single film, decal film. So you have to cut them out, and then you cut them as close as you wish. So if you look at those, the two tail decals there, number 12 and number 9 that make up the tail decal, you've got to cut them to fit where you want them to go, which is what I'm doing now. So what we've had to do is we've had to cut the decal out, then mark up where the centre line is, holding it against the tail, cut it in half before we've then soaked it in the water. You can see here the other two sections of the swastika, they were also cut out while still on the backing paper, because the centre line of the swastika is not the centre line where we need to cut on the tail. So these two decals have just been put on, so they've been soaked in cold water, slid off and placed in place, and they're just dry now. And you can see, because the surface is very, very lumpy, you've got all these ridges in it, it's not going to settle particularly well. But we know that, and we've got some, if you look here, we've got hinges here for the flaps, which it's not going to settle over. But for now, we're just going to leave that to naturally dry and let the water behind it in those grooves evaporate. So I'll show you these that are sort of in two different stages of progress. So this one is nearly finished. So I put this one on yesterday as a test to see how well it would go down. So these two are on one piece of carrier film, so there is film between the D and the A there. And then what we've done is we've let it naturally dry. Then we've put on this product here, Microsol, that one, which softens the decals and helps them conform to all the various different lumps and bumps that we've got on there. So I put that on and I let that dry, and what happens is, if you've not used it before, the decal goes a bit wrinkly as it softens up, and then it resettles as it dries and conforms to the shape. So after we've done that, I then took the pin, and where we had some air bubbles, I poked the pin into the air bubbles, and then we put some more Microsol on, and what happens is that then goes in through that pinhole and floods where the air is, and it softens the decal. And then I took this brush, which I'll show you here, this brush, and basically what we've done is we've just then used the brush as like a squeegee to push up through each one of those lines. And as that happens, you're squashing out the air and you're making sure it's full of water. So that was then allowed to dry, and then this morning what we've done, because that had dried overnight, is we've just gone over it in the last half an hour or so with Microset. So it's almost the same as Microsol, and I use it, you can tell by the amount used in each bottle, I use it less. Usually I use Microset for just a flat surface, just to help the decal stick to the surface. In this instance what I've done is I've gone over it just as a finishing solution because there was a couple of air bubbles still in there. So I've just dabbed my brush in it and gone over it and re-squeegeed it, and that looks like it's set fairly well now. Obviously what happens is the light is showing where the air bubbles are, but I've got no silvering or anything like that. So once that's dry, I think I'm happy to give that another coat of varnish. So this one here, this one went down this morning, and as you can see from the reflection of the light, there's a lot of air bubbles in that. So this has just had one coat of microsol over it, and you can see here, if I just get my little pointy stick, cocktail stick to everyone else, you can see here that it's quite soft because there's a lot of air in there. So I did experiment, and you can drag, you have to be careful because it's very thin, but you can drag that down each line, and it will push the air out, but what it'll do is it'll also push it into each other. So this is why we use the pin, because what the pin will do is it gives places for the air to escape other than each end of the decal film. So we'll probably put at least one in the middle of each one, then we'll get our brush, dip it in the microsol, and then we'll go up each one of those lines, squeegeeing it out, hopefully pushing the air out and pushing some microsol in. The whole decal will be then quite moist with the microsol. It will soften it again, it will crinkle again, it will reset, and we might we'll find that we've got most of the job done then. We might have to go over it and do it again. But yeah, a surface like this is obviously very challenging. Where we've got this looks like a hinge, but it's not. It's where the flaps are going to be attached underneath. At this point here, we'll just get a number 11 blade nice and sharp, and just cut around it when the decal's dry, so that we don't rip it. And then put some microsol over it again, and that'll settle down, and you'd never even know. So it's really just a process of working through and getting the air out. Obviously on a surface like this it's quite time consuming. Usually on an aircraft where you might have one or two panel lines that you want to sink it into, it's not a big issue. But because of the size of these lines, on a panel line I'd run a knife through that line and put my microsol on, and that'll settle it and you wouldn't know. But actually you're putting a cut in it, so under a magnifying glass you would see that there is a cut line. These the group dips in these are too wide for me to do that, because it will break it up and you'll see silver between what is supposed to be black paintwork. I mean, the other alternative obviously is that you could use the decals, cut the decals out carefully and use it as a paint mask. That's another option, and if this was a 148 aircraft I'd be doing that. That become much more challenging when you come to do the Olympic rings, however. I wouldn't fancy trying that myself. I know other people certainly could do it. So there we are. I just wanted to update you on the decals. I'll continue to put the decals on, and when that's done and varnished up, I'll show you the finished thing. Okay, so we've not quite finished the decals. I can't put the Olympic rings on this side until I've painted that door in. And I've got another decal to put on the nose on each side. But then we're pretty much... Oh, and I've got part of a decal to put on when this door is sorted. And I'm hoping to be able to depict that door open. So I need to check out which way it opens first, and then we'll paint that up and put the last two numbers of that decal on. So some of these decals have now been sat down properly. They've been microsoled a number of times. Some of them, like the tail decal, there still needs some work on it. So before I give these decals a final top coat of satin varnish, I also need to get the black paintwork done. So that's what we're working on now. And then, so if I just take this off the cradle by the way is homemade. It's just a bit of packing foam and some food skewers, bamboo food skewers which have been cut to size, and this little jig, I suppose you'd call it. I can use this for 172 to 132. It proved not big enough for my 124 Hellcat, but for most aircraft models I'm ever going to make, this will do it. I know you can buy these things, but why spend money on a jig when you can make one yourself? It costs me nothing, and then I think you can save your money for spending on a model. So we're just doing the painting at the moment. This is being hand painted. So obviously the silver we airbrushed, the black I'm hand painting, 2 coats, Vallejo black. So we've done the top areas there, you can see. I've not done the underside yet, so we need to carry that through. And I'm just about to paint up the nose, so the nose is black, and I just wanted to show you what we're doing here. So you can see, hopefully, we've got that maxed off because the black has a curve there. So what we've done is we've just run some strips of masking tape along there, then drawn on the masking tape the shape we want, and obviously we've got, if we're going to make any errors, it's better to make it on the masking tape. And then using a sharp blade, we've just gone along and scored that out and peeled the tape away, then made sure we've pressed it down. Now it's not too bad, the surface here, a lot of it's quite flat. I do have a couple of lumps. I'm expecting a little bit of leaching, but then we can touch that up before we put our final clear coat on. And then underneath it's a straight line, so although that's nice and easy with the straight tape, you need to make sure that the end of the curve is exactly the same on each time. And so what we did was we drew this one first, and we marked off that. Then when we put the masking tape on this side, I used one of these. So I'm not sure how well this is going to show up. Does that help? Yeah. So it's a clear acetate rule. I think this came from Master Tools if you want to hunt one out. It comes as a set with a protractor and stuff, and they're really handy because you can bend them around any curve you like. So I use this a lot for marking out positions on ship's hulls. So when I'm removing the hand irons and I want to replace them with etch ones, then this is a really handy tool because you can place it on the hull and it can follow the curve much easier than using a steel rule. So what we've done is we've used this flexible tool because you can see through it. So we've marked at one point and got it level, and then I could mark the point there. So I knew I had a level line, so when I put this tape on, I'm going from a marked point to a marked point, and I know it's straight. But sometimes it can be straight to the eye, and then you take the tape off and you think, well, that's as crooked as a politician. So there you go. That's where I'm up to now. So I'm going to carry on with the painting, and when we've painted the nose, we'll flip it over to paint that bit, and then that'll lead us into painting the engine nacelles and the black stripe there. The decals are all on. If I turn it the right way around for you, decals are all on underneath. So that will be the underneath completed in terms of painting, other than the construction of the undercarriage, which we'll be tackling next before I paint any silver. So we'll build up the undercarriage, paint that up, paint this door and that door at the same time while we've got the silver paint out, and then we'll be able to do that construction and then do the final clear coat. Then once that's done, there's the engines to build up, 3 engines, and then there's some tiny details like there's a little Lufthansa flag that comes out the window, and aerial stanchion and so on. So we're nearly there with this, and so far I've really enjoyed this build, and I think it looks great. I masked this off and painted it silver, and then I then realised that actually the framework is black, so I'm going to hand paint those in now, which I've got a brush which has 3 bristles on, and I can hand paint that using my hand steady, so I'm going to show you this as well. So I have this, it's a hand steady, so it's basically a wedge, and what it allows you to do is you can put your wrists on there and it just takes that shake away. So I have fairly steady hands anyway, but what I find is if I'm painting figures and things like that, being able to hold both hands steady, the one with the brush, the one with the item, it really makes a difference. Being able to rest them up high rather than rest them down low. So yeah, this is a product that I got online. I think they make products primarily for the model railroad people. So they've got lots of, but they have paint storage racks. I have one of their racks for rod and plastic card and that sort of stuff. So yeah, and the service was really good, and I hadn't used them before. I bought this just before Christmas and New Year, and I'm very pleased with it. Comes flat packed. You glue it together yourself with a little bit of wood glue. Took no time at all, and I think that was £5 British money. So yeah, I found it really useful. Okay, so that's where we are now. I will get some paint on this and then show you what that looks like.